Now let's take a look at the NFC West division. It was the Seattle Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, finishing with a 12-4 record. Seahawks got off to a tad bit of a shaky start. Certainly some inconsistencies when you looked at not being able to really get things going in the passing game and making Percy Harvin fit into that offense. So it wasn't too long into the season before it was a decision that certainly didn't sit too well with many people, primarily the players in that Seattle locker room. But Seattle decided to trade Percy Harvin away to the New York Jets, get back to a little bit more of a focus on the running attack, and that's when you really seen Seattle's offense kind of fold back into form. Seattle, a team we know with not a superstar at wide receiver. They're a team that wants to run the football, run it early, run it often, run it a lot. You can certainly say that. We know that star running back Marshawn Lynch has been one of the best in the business the last few years since he's arrived in Seattle, averaging right around 1,300 yards and 12 or 13 rushing TDs. We know that Russell Wilson can get the job done on the ground as well, and that's where we're going to start. Russell Wilson, third year in the NFL, did another outstanding job. Got you over 3,000 yards passing, 20 TD passes, only 7 interceptions. Absolutely love that about Russell Wilson. A guy does not turn the football over a lot, especially throwing the football through the air. Heady guy, knows how to use his feet. This year to the tune of up over 800 rushing yards. That is certainly an element that we did not see Wilson utilize in his second year. This year, certainly able to take advantage of the yardage that was available on the ground, and it did that Seattle offense huge wonders by being able to move the chains, continue to get first downs. Great job by him. Wilson, also a very effective passer, able to get the job done in the air when necessary. But this team, again, wanting to concentrate and run the football. We're talking about Marshawn Lynch, another banner year for Lynch, up over 1,200 rushing yards, led all players in the NFL with 17 total TDs, did an excellent job catching the football out of the backfield as well. And so that was a great job. When you looked at Seattle's offensive line, certainly went through some injuries there. We're talking about tackle Russell Okung. We're talking about your center Max Unger. We're talking about your guard Sweezy. You know, those guys not able to stay collectively as a unit on the field together. So that certainly hindered Seattle's offense a tad bit. And then again, when you look at their receivers, you're talking about Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, some solid guys, but not guys really going to scare any defenses. These guys really make a lot of plays when Russell Wilson breaks out of the pocket, or the initial play breaks down, and then they're able to get behind defenders as Wilson is scrambling and catch the football on the run. You factor in a couple good rookies. You're talking about Paul Richardson and Kevin Norwood. And then, we even seen in the Super Bowl the emergence of their big 6'5" rookie who made some excellent plays out there on the football field. And so Seattle's offense certainly able to do enough and what it needed to do to get the Seahawks all the way back to the Super Bowl. When you look on the defensive side of the football, that's certainly the unit that still stands out for this Seattle team, and it's certainly the calling card. Their defense got off to a little bit shaky of a start, and when you think about the players they lost, very understandable. To free agency, they lost Chris Clemens, they lost Michael Bennett. You're talking about two guys up there in the trenches who certainly were getting the job done. Then you took a look in the secondary. You lose a guy like Walter Thurman to free agency. That certainly takes away some depth. And so, they took a while for Seattle to kind of get things on track, especially in the areas where we become accustomed to seeing them succeed so well. We're talking about open field tackling, stopping the run, and causing turnovers. Well, when Bobby Wagner, their Pro Bowl inside linebacker who had battled some early season injuries, got back in the lineup, Seattle's defense really turned things around from about week 9 or 10 to the rest of the season. When you looked at Seattle during their last 6 regular season games, holding opponents to just 6 points per contest, getting the turnovers, stopping the run. Seattle finished the season ranked 3rd against the run, only giving up 72 rush yards a game. And on most teams, you usually have some type of weakness on the defense. Either they're good at stopping the run, or have a poor secondary, or they have a good secondary and cannot stop the run. For Seattle, the exact opposite. These guys know how to stop the run, but when you go throw the football, you're playing into their strong suit. We're talking about that Legion of Boom defense with Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor. All those guys certainly had Pro Bowl type years again as well. As for the Seattle Seahawks, really had a huge scare in the NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers, able to push through the Super Bowl, where it was a up and down battle, one of the best Super Bowls I think we have seen in a long time, or I should say just one of the best Super Bowls overall. Battled against the New England Patriots back and forth. It was a 14-14 game at halftime. Seattle was able to go up 24-14 in the third quarter of that game. New England came back, went up 28-24 before Seattle led a last-minute drive, getting all the way down to the 1-yard line. Second down and 2, 26 seconds left on the clock, one timeout. We all thought Seattle was going to run the football. That is a call that I'm pretty much sure everybody would have made. Seattle somehow, some way. We've heard all the excuses. We've heard everything that they've said, but they end up throwing a pass on the 1-yard line that gets intercepted. And ultimately, they lose the Super Bowl. And so when you look at the Seattle Seahawks team coming back next year, you just wonder, how. And I think that the offseason is certainly going to allow these wounds to heal to a certain degree. But, what's the trust level going to be with head coach Pete Carroll? What's the trust level going to be with the offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, the guys responsible for making that horrible call to cost Seattle their second championship in 2 years? And so, I think that's going to be the main thing. What's going to be the morale of the team? What's going to be the chemistry? What's going to be the mindset? You certainly are thinking that was a Super Bowl they should have won. Not sure if they're going to be the favorites, but I think without question, this is going to be a group that's hungry to return. Their biggest thing they need to address is if they're going to re-sign their star running back, Marshawn Lynch. Next, the Arizona Cardinals at 11-5. Man, I tell you, for Arizona, this was a year where it looked like they finally were going to get an opportunity to really contest Seattle and try to make a push in the NFC for a Super Bowl. Got off to an excellent 10-1 start before the bottom fell out due to injuries. When you look on the offensive side of the football, they lost their starting quarterback Carson Palmer with an ACL injury. You end up losing your starting running back Andre Ellington with a hip injury. Your starting top wide receiver and Larry Fitzgerald has an MCL sprain. He's not 100% coming down the stretch. And then on the tail end of the season, you end up losing your second string quarterback, Drew Stanton, and you had to go with a third stringer, Ryan Lindley. And at that point, I think it was all clear to us that Arizona's season was done. We love their defense, how well they play. You have the likes of Patrick Peterson and Antonio Cromartie pairing up to be one of the most dynamic cornerback tandems in the NFL. You love the guys flying around there on the back end at safety. We're talking about rookie Deion Buchanan. When you looked at the front line for Arizona, another area where they had to overcome injuries. You're talking about losing Darnell Dockett in the preseason with an ACL injury. Calais Campbell misses about 3 games with the knee injury. And so, certainly. And then you also have to factor in Darrell Washington, Pro Bowl inside linebacker, one of the best in the business. He misses a year due to off-the-field injuries. And so, this was an Arizona Cardinals team that certainly had the makeup and build to make a strong push to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But ultimately, injuries really cost this football team. Carson Palmer, he's up in age. Arizona has to figure out if they're going to re-sign him. He's 38 years old. He has a 2-year, $20 million left on his contract. Suffered that ACL injury kind of in the middle of the year. So, it may take that same amount of time for him to get back healthy. Larry Fitzgerald, he's up in age now. What do you do trying to renegotiate his contract? So, really money and contract issues is the thing that Arizona has to consider. This was a group, though, that you certainly would have liked to see them healthy. I honestly believe they had enough talent. They would have had home field division. I would have not been surprised to see them at all beat a Seattle, beat a Green Bay, beat a Dallas, your other division winners out in the NFC. So it was really a sad reality for Bruce Arians and the team that had a ton of talent, but injuries are really the thing that took that team from 10-1 to 11-5 record. I mean, this team went 1-4 down the stretch, only able to eke out one victory at home over the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the games, they end up losing, and you just kind of felt it. With every injury, the frustration mounted, and it just became very apparent that this team was only going to be able to go so far. Inevitably, they end up losing on the road in the first round in the wild card matchup at Carolina. For Arizona, they've got their work cut out in the offseason trying to figure out how they can piece this team back together to be in contention for another year. At 8-8, the San Francisco 49ers were just as much of a disappointment, and certainly once the year was over, you see that head coach Jim Harbaugh left for Michigan, so you really wonder just how much. You kind of heard those rumors spark early on, and if you think about the 49ers season, it was really a season that just kind of had turmoil and outside things. You know, guys just not being able to concentrate on football going on. Coming into the season, you had rumors swirling around that veteran running back Frank Gore, he wasn't any good anymore. He was up in age. They wanted to reduce his carries, which was obviously a mistake. Vernon Davis wanted a new contract. He briefly held out of training camp. You looked at the 49ers going out and picking up Steve Johnson, a nice pickup. He was a starter for the Buffalo Bills. You got a healthy Michael Crabtree. You have Anquan Bolden, Vernon Davis. You know, you're looking at the 49ers offense, and you're saying that, you know, in a year where their defense, you figured they would struggle a little bit because they were going to be starting off the year without all-pro inside linebacker Navarro Bowman, who was out with an injury. He suffered an bad ACL tear in the NFC Championship game the year before. Aldon Smith, their all-pro outside linebacker, one of the best guys in the NFL at getting sacks, broke the record for most sacks in his first couple years in the NFL. He was gone 9 games, suspended due to off-the-field issues. You looked at Patrick Willis getting hurt in Week 7. He ended up missing the rest of the season. You had 2 new starting defensive backs. Your former guys left to free agency, and then you have to bring in a new safety to learn that scheme. So, you know, you looked at this 49ers team, and there was just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of changes, but you figured that quarterback Colin Kaepernick and that offense will be able to compensate and get the job done until that defense got it together, and that absolutely did not happen. This 49ers team really got hurt by, once the rumors start swirling about Jim Harbaugh, their head coach, not remaining with the team. He's going to leave. You heard players were not buying in the locker room, and those type things I think just became major distractions. When you look at the 49ers ending 8-8, I think it tells you how much talent they had on the team, because with all of those things I just mentioned, still being able to finish 500 in a very tough division, I think it speaks volumes about the type of talent they had on their roster. If guys could have been healthy, if everybody was buying in, if the offensive game plan was right. Let's focus in on that for a minute. The 49ers, a team who, if you look at their offensive linemen, these are guys who are road graders. They don't do well in pass protection. The 49ers decided to become a team who wanted to be a little bit more pass focused this year. And I certainly understand that. When you have an Anquan Bolden, a Michael Crabtree, a Stevie Johnson, a Vernon Davis, you're going to be tempted to air it out. But I think they overlooked the fact that your offensive line is unable to protect. That's the reason that you got rid of Alex Smith in the first place. Colin Kaepernick able to escape the pocket, can run away from some pressure, make some things happen on the ground with his feet, as well as throwing the football on the run. But I think that was a huge mistake. The other mistake, buying into this whole notion that Frank Gore can't carry the load anymore. Well, we know that's not true. When we seen that their rookie backup running back Carlos Hyde, who was very effective this year running the football, showed the explosion. I think he's a guy who's going to take over for Frank Gore in the next couple years. But when he was out of the lineup at the end of the year hurt, we've seen Frank Gore, when he's getting fed the football 20 plus times, he's up over 140 yards. He's up over 120 yards rushing. So key mistakes there for the 49ers offense, just not sticking to the script, sticking to their strong suit, which is running the football, pounding the football. That allows for you to set up play action, takes pressure off of Colin Kaepernick. When you look defensively, 49ers still finished in the top 10 defensively despite having to overcome all those obstacles. So I think if the offense just would have stuck to the script, the 49ers were a team who certainly were more along the lines of 10-6 and could have been making a push to get in the playoffs as well. I think your biggest issues for the 49ers that you got to look at now is the team going to buy into your new coach, Jim Tomsula? What's going to happen with this 49ers team as a whole? You have a lot of guys who are veterans on that team who are making a lot of money. Certainly were a huge part of those 49ers making it to 3 straight NFC championship games prior to this year. What is the offense going to do? What's going to be your identity? So I think the 49ers issues are all internal. You know, they've got to find ways to continue to cash in the draft. They've certainly done a great job of that. When you look at the impact that Jimmy Ward had before going down with an injury, you look at the type of season Chris Borland had. You look at your rookie center, Marcus Martin from USC, coming in and starting from day one. I mentioned Carlos Hyde had a very effective year running the football. So for San Francisco, I think it's about establishing a new identity or possibly reestablishing an old identity. But I honestly believe it's enough talent on that team that if they buy in or the coaching is there, leadership is there, I expect for the 49ers to be much improved from 8-8 this year. Last but not least, you had the St. Louis Rams at 6-10, and I think the Rams are another team who are exactly what we thought they were going to be. When you looked at the offensive side of the football, this was a team coming into the season who really didn't have any weapons in the passing game. To make matters worse, your franchise quarterback, Sam Bradford, goes down with an ACL injury, and that really kind of just took the air out of the Rams season very early on. Now, veteran Sean Hill came in and did a decent job in the beginning, but he ended up getting banged up. He wasn't the answer. Rookie Austin Davis got in the lineup. He certainly showed some flashes. I think that you got a lot of potential in this kid, depending on how things work out with Sam Bradford. But then you took a look at the wide receivers, and certainly was an area that was unestablished there. You had the likes of Brian Quick. You bring over a veteran, Kenny Britt. Tavon Austin really hadn't been that effective. And so you're kind of searching for answers as to, who's going to step up, who's going to be that guy. And I think that's where Sam Bradford was missed, because if there was one thing that Sam Bradford could do well, it was deliver the football with accuracy. We know that Bradford could do that. Certainly not able to utilize some nice tight ends you have in Jared Cook and Lance Kendricks. So, I think it was just really trying to piece the puzzles together to be able to figure out some ways to manufacture points, especially against the tougher defenses in the NFL. Certainly your bright spots on this team this year. I mentioned Austin Davis, your rookie quarterback, showed some nice flashes. Brian Quick, prior to him getting injured halfway through the season, he had to miss the remainder of the season. He certainly showed some propensity to be a number one receiver for this Rams team. And then they finally got their running back situation, I believe, under control. They have been juggling the backfield since losing Steven Jackson a couple of years ago. Zach Stacy was your guy coming into the season, but due to various reasons, some unknown, he lost his starting job. Benny Cunningham was in there for a minute. He wasn't the guy. Trey Mason, your rookie from Auburn, had an outstanding second half of the season. I think the Rams now find their franchise running back. Also did a great job with the number 2 pick in the draft by getting offensive lineman Greg Robinson. He came from Auburn as well. So now you got a guy up front who's going to sit alongside Jake Long and be able to help Sam Bradford be protected, as well as help out in the running game. When you look on the defensive side of the football, Jeff Fisher did a great job there. They went out and spent their second first-round pick on Aaron Donald, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh. Excellent pick for all the right reasons. When you look inside the division, you have teams like Seattle with Marshawn Lynch, the 49ers with Frank Gore, who run the football. So in order to stop that, you have to have a stout defensive line. Donald plugged in perfectly alongside Michael Brockers, Chris Long, Robert Quinn. I think that our defensive line comes into next season being the best defensive line in the NFL. Donald was the defensive rookie of the year with 9 sacks, so you like that there. You have James Laurinaitis and Tommy Ogletree at linebacker. Both of those guys know how to get the job done there. And then some underrated cornerbacks who are on the come up. I will say that Janoris Jenkins, in his third year, he is continuing to get better and better. Certainly like the tenacity and feistiness in that young guy there. And then they got some safeties who can fly around back there. You're talking about TJ McDonald, definitely a hard hitter. So when you look at this Rams team as a whole, it's really about piecing into places. I honestly believe that their defense is pretty well intact. So now they can focus on, getting skill position players. Look, you have your running back and Trey Mason. Offensive line, it's always an area you want to look. But if Sam Bradford is going to be back healthy, or whoever it is you're going to have at quarterback, you've got to have some better weapons to pass the football to. If you can run the football effectively, it sets up play action. But at the end of the day, converting third downs, we know that the NFL is constantly trending toward a passing league. And if you don't have guys at that wide receiver position who can get open, who can create separation, who can make the big plays in the passing game, this Rams team is going to continue to tread water right around 6-10.